Namaste. As grateful daughters of this land, this ancient civilization, Bharat, which has bequeathed to us in extraordinary legacies of learning and knowledge that continue to exist and grow unbroken over millennia. From Gargi and Maitreyi to every Indian woman today, she leads not just this nation, but the very world. Charting her journey across many different genres of learning, she continues to guide this nation and the world in what it is meant to be. She is Shakti, the core of Bharat's growth story. Shakti, that is the essence that is powering Bharat's and India's Atmanirbharata. Today, it is indeed an extraordinary honor and privilege to welcome someone we have all grown up admiring for decades. Someone who is the epitome of Stri Shakti, the epitome of Netritva Shakti, the Honorable Union Minister for Women and Child Development, the one and only Smriti Irani ji. Welcome, namaste.
Dhanyavad.
Your incredible journey is one of focused pursuit of dreams that are beyond the purview of the average middle class. Your story is rare and an uncommon template for an average middle class young girl child. Ma'am, what lessons can a young girl learn from your amazing story?
I think it's time we stopped asking women what other women can learn from them. The question should be turned around, what can men also learn from women? Because I've never been on platforms where men are asked by fellow gentlemen, what can young boys learn from you? And I think in that question resides this belief that women do not have the capacity to consume knowledge from their environment, from life experiences. Women do not observe, and hence women will only be in a position to receive an understanding of a life circumstance if they are told through somebody else's experience. We never denote men as such. And if men and women have to learn something, I don't think I'm at a precipice of time where I am so benevolent and so experienced that men or women need to learn from me. I would differ that mine is a story which is rare. I think the difference is mine is a story which is told. My struggles or my challenges or my achievements are not mine alone. There are many women in this room who have gone through different circumstances, reached their goals. The only difference is I sit in front of the camera, you sit behind it.
Netritva Shakti also means extraordinary humility, and she typifies that.
No, I'm not a humble person. And why I differ on it as well. When you see women come on stage and they accept a certain amount of achievement, the tag humility is insistently attached to them. For if you're not humble in achievement, you're probably not feminine enough. However, this disposition is not expected of a man. So I beg to differ.
Okay.
I am very vocal about what I have achieved if I find such a platform. And I believe that if I have to indicate anything about my persona, that is the one aspect I would like to indicate. That I can be happy about the fact that I'm ambitious, not shy about it, not feel guilt about it. I can speak openly about the fact that yes, I have achieved on my terms and not subjugated myself to anybody else's will. I think it is extremely important to say so because we have seen a time in our society where if a woman is extremely boisterous about her achievement, again, it is presumed that she is not feminine enough. So any platform you find, to speak about your achievement, speak without guilt.
Yes.
Speak with your head held high. Humility is very natural to women.
Thank you. Pursue your calling, chase your passions is something that's thrown at all of us from childhood, from across fora. Yet, we as artists know that that path is littered with many a challenge. How did you crest these challenges in your rise to the top as one of the most highly successful and respected artists? And would you define these challenges as struggles or challenges?
I don't think that we give a complete lesson in life. Especially, I belong to an economically challenged family as a young child. When you teach a child who comes from a poor family or a lower middle class family, pursue your dreams with vigor, with a sense of passion, I think there has to be a very big footnote with it. Pursue it, but remember there'll be a price. Because when you pursue things on your own terms, there will be many that you will upset because you refuse to be crushed. There will be many who will be upset because you've received a knowledge system and possibly surpassed those who taught you. There will be many who believed that in your journey, you will never transform. I'm sure many women in this audience today, and I know a few of them, have had a juncture in their lives when they're told, "Aap aise nahi the, jab aap pehle mile the, tab aap alag the." As though it is a crime to transform. It is a crime to find more confidence, more joy. So I believe that when you teach a child, boy or girl, the art of pursuing a goal, you need to instill in them the common sense that for every decision and choice you make in life, there will be a price to pay. That price may be paid with your patience, that price may be paid with your reputation, that price may be paid with your peace of mind. Nothing comes free.
To me, Smriti Irani ji epitomizes the power of laser sharp focus.
I thought it was a laser sharp tongue.
It's something that I see, that we all have seen her bring to every aspect of our life. In these days of easy distractions, growing and nurturing that power of focus is a learning that all of us can take back today, a takeaway.
I think because I've learned very early that there is a price to pay, hence there is an understanding that what are the distractions that price extracts. Women, when they are young, are told that if you reach a level of achievement, all your problems will dissipate. I see my senior colleague Tessie Thomas in the audience today. I remember, and with your permission, Tessie, I'll say this today, when I became Minister of Education, I remember walking into the IIT Council meeting. The room was filled with male scientists, and some of the most acclaimed ones. Tessie knows it, I know them, we won't name them. When I walked in, I looked around and I said, "Where are the female scientists?" They looked around and they told me, "Well, you fill the female slot." I said, "But I'm not the scientist, I'm the politician." They said, "Well, we didn't have good enough women to fill the room." This is some of the most celebrated male scientists in the country in the year 2014 when I became Minister of Education. I walked out of the room, I excused myself for a phone call, and I called Tessie Thomas. For the first time in my life, I spoke to her, the missile woman of India. And I said, "Madam, I'm so-and-so. I have a request. Would you consider becoming the first chairperson of the IIT Council?" Wow. And Tessie literally choked. And I'll never forget those words. She said, "You thought of me." A woman who could make missile systems in my country choked because I thought of her. She was a natural choice. The fact that this woman was not in that room spoke volumes. It's not that women of merit didn't exist. It is that somebody needed to open the door to such rooms and say, this is as much yours as the men in your field. So, my belief is, if you reach a particular position of excellence or achievement, remember there is a generation of women before us.
Yes.
The generation after mine is comparatively luckier.
Yes.
The generation before mine could never speak of equity, though there was much conversation around equality. Because if they spoke of equity, they were termed activists wherever they were at. कि ये नेतागिरी कर रही है. And so they did not want to pay that price for their careers. And today it's incumbent upon women of my generation and the generation that comes after me to recognize the women just before my generation so that they find their place of respect in society.
In fact, a small personal anecdote.
One part of
Yes, sir.
why would you have focus is also to remember you're not the only one struggling.
Right. Well said.
Women, if they achieve, their struggle does not end. Their response gets more nuanced. We will have the privilege of having the Honorable President of India on this platform today. I would highlight to this august audience that even after becoming the President of India, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, she was subjected to humiliation in politics.
Yes.
So just because you become an achiever, that doesn't mean your challenges end. That is the fairy tale we need to stop selling to young girls.
In fact, my personal anecdote is I'm from the Indian Railway Traffic Service of the 87 batch, and I burst through a very male bastion to become the first woman officer in South Central Railway. And they said, sir, to me for 2 months. So, as a dancer, I live by 3 words: practice, practice, and practice. And that is how what I dance on stage, that glamour is covers all the sweat backstage. So what is the secret to the brilliance of oratorial skill, sharpness of mind and memory that is Smriti Irani?
As far as my oratory skills and comebacks go, I practice a lot on my partner.
Here, here.
But I think what is also inevitable
Yes.
is the need to highlight the necessity to read. We have now necessitated in the digital age accumulation of knowledge through devices. But everything that Google has is not sacrosanct. We also need to recognize we have knowledge systems across many dialects of our country. We need to recognize that while I will get much information from the smartphone, there is also a human value to communication. There is also a deep sense, and I think as somebody who has consistently desired to become better, there is a need to ensure that you keep competing with yourself. I do not ever position myself to compete with any other individual.
Right.
Because that then becomes a standard which is very obvious.
Yeah.
If I am in a position to do something better, learn something better today, I will look for that opportunity. For instance, my day began with the Indian Publishing Federation.
Okay.
Now, that is not a part of my administrative ecosystem or my constitutional mandate. It's a different entity altogether in our country, which employs 1.2 million Indians. I'm not the Minister Publishing. However, I'm meeting these people who have spent years dedicating themselves to printing and publishing of books.
Yeah.
Now, that is the most unnatural thing for me to begin my day with. But there is limitless opportunity to educate oneself. So I think if you keep looking at new avenues of gaining knowledge, you stay razor sharp.
You come from 2 very different workplaces. You were at the top of your career, you gave it all up, actually to get onto the shop floor of politics. And obviously, there is a whole lot of learning that you probably bring from the artistic space to the hustle and bustle of politics and governance.
Well, I must here give a very humble disclosure. Even when I was in the media, I was mostly a union leader. So I've had the privilege of serving in the Writers' Federation. The camera people that you see behind, we are called the Allied Workers Union. So I was a part of their union as well. The Jimmy Jip that you see, I was a part of their union as well. I was a production union person as well. So yes, my union bazi and activism was also
So you brought that.
reflected behind the camera as I cried my way to the bank.
As women in leadership, and literally you at the top of that center and owning that space, it's often that eyes and knives are pointed at us. I'm sure we all know how you deal with it in an extraordinary way. What is your advice to youngsters entering the leadership space? And of course, these eyes and knives, I'm sure it bothers you. And I'm sure you have a huge
Nothing
family.
bothers me.
It doesn't.
You can't be in the public space
Yes.
and hope to be protected. You are to be morally, ethically lynched. If you're a female who has made a considerable political impact, and especially if you're one Amethi, you have to be ready to be stripped of all your dignity, because that is the way they hope you defocus from issues.
Right. Right.
And once you understand that strategy, everything else falls in place.
Fantastic.
So I believe that if somebody wants to come into the public space, there are two issues you need to consider before you come in. Don't come in because you have no other career option.
Right.
India deserves better.
Yes.
People deserve better.
Absolutely.
Value why you are coming into politics. Second, which part of politics do you want to be a part of? I began with political activism. I began with social activism. I was the WHO USAID ambassador to India. And as I worked in the field of health across the country, I was just 24 then, I realized till such time I don't become a policy maker, not much will change. Hence, I switched to electoral politics. So one, you need to decide how, where would you like to contribute. Two, you need to decide how long would you like to contribute.
Prime Minister Modi has emphasized on the need for women-led development. This is a little long question, multiple questions actually. A little elaboration on that if you can, if you may. And any resistance to this idea from the other half of the population?
No. I'm very grateful, one, that the very phrase women-led development is a tectonic shift,
Yes.
not only in narrative, but also perception. Women in our country were always looked upon as beneficiaries,
Yes.
waiting to be rescued. Someone or the other in politics would talk about how हमको औरतों के लिए ये करना है. For the first time in Indian politics, we have now a prime minister who says, देश के लिए अगर कुछ करना है, तो औरतों का सहारा ज़रूरी है.
बिल्कुल.
And women-led development quantifies the monetary impact women have in our country.
Yes.
For instance, 110 million toilets built. The government, which was Congress-led in the year 2005-06, if you look at the National Family Health Survey 3, they knew in 2005-06 that women are getting raped when they go out to defecate in the open. They knew that only 38% of households in our country have toilets. They knew in 2010 that the World Bank says that 6% of your GDP is taking a hit because of lack of sanitation. Nobody did anything. And building toilets has never been politically glamorous. No woman in our country has ever walked up to a politician to say, please build me a toilet.
Exactly.
Now, 110 million toilets get built. You ensure enhanced, dignified means of starting a day. 230 million bank accounts get opened. 200 million women get mudra loans. Before 2014, many people said women cannot start businesses because they have no access to collateral-free loans. When mudra came, nobody said it's a loan for women. It was actually not gendered. It was for men and women. And it was not just happenstance that 70% of the beneficiaries turned out to be women. Now look at it from a rural point of view, or look at it from an urban slum point of view. Imagine a woman sitting in some village or in a jhuggi jhopri, drawing up a business plan, going to a bank, convincing the bank that they can service the loan, take the loan, service it, grow their business, give the money back. NPA for women who take loans from bank is less than 2% compared to men. We are doing far better. We have proven now financially that we are better investments. So I think when you talk about women-led development, that is exactly where the Prime Minister has taken the governance agenda to.
With
that if you
cushions
want
and
to
fallback.
financially be strengthened as a society, then it is imperative that women be equal partners.
So it's obviously there's a lot of cushions and fallback already
Women have
woven
not
into
had,
the system.
I would not term it as cushions.
Necessities.
That makes light of our achievement.
Yes.
Nothing is a cushion. We didn't have access. We have now equal access, and we are doing better than men. That is how one should position it.
Yes.
No woman is getting a cushion.
So how does, when you're talking of women-led development, when I meant cushion, I mean, what is the fallback that she would need to be supported with, considering that the multiple roles that she will be continued to expected to play, and the policies and practices and social messaging that will be required to facilitate this transition and
I
empathy
think it's
and
about
support?
creating access to opportunity. For instance, I cannot imagine why young girls were not allowed to study in Sainik schools. Now we have young girls studying in Sainik schools. We have women now in the Permanent Commission. We have women now who are launching our space programs to Mars or Chandrayaan. These are not women who just happen to be now contributing. These are women who are waiting for that opportunity at that high table. So I believe that when you talk about what is the social change, I mean, Tessie and 3 other scientists joined us recently at the G20 summit for women ministers in Gandhinagar. And the G20 partners were aghast. They thought that a prima donna in all scientific gear is going to walk in as the ISRO face. And suddenly, it's very quietly walked in, Tessie, and then Ritu walked in, and everybody else walked in, and they were like, these are the women who went and did this remarkable thing at Mars. We said yes. So I think there is this perception that if it is a female who's launching rockets, then she wouldn't be this 50-something lady in a sari. So I think those perceptions are now slowly changing, and I'm very happy. Because I've always said this, that modernity is a state of mind. It is not a dress code. In fact, you would all be happy to know that the incidences of women now enrolling in PhD programs in our country has gone up by 99.5%.
Wow. Fantastic. So coming back to Smriti Irani ji, what is your core strength? Not core competency, core strength. Your one fallback that has never failed you. Is it
I have no
Ganapati?
fallback.
Is it Ganesha that you and I are
I
wearing?
have no fallback. And that is my strength.
Okay.
That you have no option but to succeed. Because if I was comfortable, I wouldn't be here today. So anybody who thinks you need this cushion, this fallback, you aren't
So is that
going
your core
anywhere.
strength, that you have no fallback?
I guess it's different for me because I come from a poor background. So no matter how much I achieve, no matter how much money I make, I was one of the highest paid actors in this country.
Yes.
The chip on the shoulder will always be there.
Yes.
So the secret to my success, I have no fallback plan, no fallback person. I just have me.
As India enters a revolutionary phase of women-led development and onward in her march towards a century of independent India, what would be the 3 brief, most important advice you would give the young?
I began again, nobody takes advice, especially young women. I will only have a request.
Okay.
As has been enunciated by the Honorable Prime Minister yesterday. We are at a time in our country's history where we can catapult to new achievements in new areas for a greater good.
Wonderful.
We cannot afford to lose this opportunity. We cannot afford to be pushed back. We cannot afford to be segregated in silos. We cannot afford to lose focus. It is a national ambition now.
Right.
To be in the top 3 economies of the world, it is a national ambition now. To ensure that per capita income increases, it is a national ambition now. To ensure that in green hydrogen, in artificial intelligence, in reading, writing, we become one of the most sought after societies in the world.
Fantastic.
And this is the time to ensure that we as women ensure that that national ambition for a global good is recognized.
So fierce, she is. Feisty, she is Stree. Fiery, Shakti. Fearless, Smriti Irani. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one and only Smriti Irani.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Smriti Irani ji and also Ananda Shankar Jain ji. And if I may have the honor of presenting something to both our guests, some role that he can play today, right, on Shri Shakti. Ma'am, this is for you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And this is for you, ma'am. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Ma'am, can you please come together for a nice picture? And can I just bomb this?
Stand at the back.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Lovely. Did you enjoy the conversation?